Hello, hello. Hi, everyone. I'll let a couple people jump on here and we'll get started in just a sec. All right. Happy Wednesday. Welcome, welcome. Hello and welcome to Glossy's weekly LinkedIn Beauty Debrief. I'm Lexi Lebsek, our West Coast correspondent here at Glossy, and I'm here with my colleagues Tatiana Pyle, our managing editor, and Courtney Marabella, Glossy's social media and audience manager. I'm so excited to welcome everyone to our Beauty Debrief. If you've been tuning in weekly, you already know that we've been experimenting with the format here, who we're talking to, what we're talking about, and today's audio event is no different. I'm thrilled to share that today we're welcoming Laura Lam-Phaure, a cosmetic chemist and technical marketer, to the chat. Laura has a background as a makeup artist and also as a product developer. She has an Associates of Arts degree in beauty industry merchandising and marketing from FIDM here in LA. She also has a Bachelor of Science in Pharmaceutical Sciences, Cosmetic Science, Formulation Design, and a minor in Chemistry from the University of Toledo. And her work includes research and development, formulation, and so much more. We were just chatting, and I know you have a busy day, Laura, so I'm so excited to welcome you. Before we start, tell us a little bit about sort of the work that you're doing nowadays.
Yeah, I recently started my own business this year, which I'm very excited about, really focused around product development, technical marketing, and formulation development. And a lot of it was just really honestly born out of the fact that I think there's a lack of, knowledge within the cosmetic science space in terms of like what's going on. And I feel like a lot of misinformation and a lot of fear-mongering happens within the beauty space, and I wanted to be able to tackle that, but on like a business-to-business level. There's a lot of that within like this science influencer and things like that, but I think we need more technical marketing within our own space. So I wanted to build a business around that. I work with brands and raw material suppliers to help with their technical marketing, product development, quality control, anything in between, and I'm really loving it.
Oh, that's amazing. So exciting. I feel like you're going to be a wealth of knowledge for us today. So today we have a listener Q&A for you all. Tatiana and I are going to get us started with some questions, including our questions and some questions that were submitted ahead of time from readers. But we're also relying on all of you to ask your burning questions. So please raise your hand. We would so be honored to bring you to the digital stage to pick Laura's brain a little bit. We only have 30 minutes, so I'm just going to jump right in here. Laura, what do you wish that more beauty, wellness, personal care brands understood about the research and development process?
I wish they understood that it takes a lot of time, especially smaller brands, indie brands. They don't understand how long it takes to develop a product. A good product nowadays will really take you around like 12 months to develop, and then if you're doing like an OTC product like a sunscreen, you want to bring that into like the 18-month stage. And also like innovation comes with a price. Like I want the latest and greatest and coolest, but that's also one of the most expensive things. So really trying to understand that it takes a long time, and innovating also comes with a price.
So what kind of timeline would you like if a brand comes in and they say like, we want this innovative product, we have this vision, what kind of timeline outside of SPF, of course, because I know that's sort of its own beast, but what kind of timeline are we talking about for different categories?
I would say generally speaking 8 to 12 months if you're really doing a custom formulation and you really want to do a deep dive of your ingredients, you want to do the proper testing on the final formulation, you want to do consumer perception studies, which can take up to 8 weeks depending on what type of results you're trying to get. So testing alone can take a lot of time. Minimally within the industry, we typically put in our timeline around like 3 to 4 months for testing. But if you want to add on like additional 8 weeks for a clinical, or you want to test it on like maybe your little community of people for a couple months, you got to add that onto your timeline. So testing is honestly the biggest piece when it comes to timeline.
That makes a lot of sense. And then what happens when a brand does want to add something like SPF? How does that increase things? How does that change things?
It changes everything from the very top to bottom. It is one of the most like complex things that you can do. It takes a lot of time to develop. It takes a lot of time to make sure all the testing is correct. And it's a lot of money. Like, say like you really have this desire to have like an SPF 50 and you approve a formula and it turns out that you love the texture, you love the feel, but it's a SPF 30. Do you move on with the SPF 30 or do you go back and reformulate again for the SPF 50? So with sunscreens, it can be a wild ride, and it has a different production process for it to be like validated properly and to be made properly. So there's a lot of pieces with that. So I always say around like 12 to 18 months to really get it done properly.
That makes a lot of sense.
Laura, I have a question since we're talking about timelines here. I think there is a lot of mystery around how some brands are able to take an idea to product shelves in 12 weeks, whereas some brands may take years to bring their product to market. Can you tell us about some of those pros and cons of the two strategies from an R&D POV?
Yeah, with the brands that really are coming to the market with 12 weeks, they've really decided to probably use a stock formula, something that's already been tested, something that's already been on the market, probably sold somewhere else. There's something that you can also do within the industry with what I call base formulas. Then you can add, say like you want to add something like under 1%. Sometimes you can bridge a study. So for example, if I do a stability test on a formula, I can then bridge the study if I want to add in a specific ingredient to make sure it's okay. But depending on the ingredient and the type, sometimes you can bridge the study, which is how some brands can get away with it. Generally speaking, though, if you're making like a custom formulation, 12 weeks is not enough time to ensure that your product is safe to like launch onto the market. So there's like their own like pros and cons with that, in the sense that like stock formulas are easy, ready to go, you can sell right away. But then at the same time, a lot of brands are finding a lot of value in obtaining IP of their formulas. And I worked with a brand in the past where they used these stock formulas, and his brand kind of like launched and doing really well, and it's like doing well on TikTok. And now he needs to own his formulas, but he can't. And he also can't scale his business properly because he doesn't own his formulas and he can't scale fast enough. But with custom formulations, you have the agility to kind of scale your business the way that you want, and you get to own your formulas and take it to other manufacturers if the current manufacturer isn't scaling fast enough for you.
I think those are such interesting insights. Lexi, were you going to say something?
Oh, I was just going to ask, such great insights. Talk to us about the difference between, like a library stock formula and like a bespoke formula in terms of like ownership. Like how, if you do have a library formula and, you make it your own color, or maybe you add something that changes the texture, what are the chances that you're going to be able to then like go back and try to own that? Or is it kind of like you really need to start bespoke and custom if you want to scale in the way you're talking about?
It really depends on the contract manufacturer that you're working with and what your contract ends up being. It depends also how much you've changed that stock formula. But say, for example, you've really kept it true to the base formula because you want to launch as soon as possible, and maybe you just added in a fragrance that you really like to make it quote unquote custom to you. You really can't own that formula because it's likely that they sold that formula to other brands and other companies, and so you can't really buy that formula. And the reason why a lot of CMs will choose you for not sell the formula to you, so you can continue to go back to them and continue to produce through them because you have no other choice. Whereas doing like a bespoke formula, you really have more freedom, but the con is that the development process is much longer, and it can be more expensive because you have to pay for your own stability, compatibility, consumer perception study, RIPT testing, het chem if you need it, things like that. So it can be more costly, but I believe that it's more productive in the long run if you're really looking to scale and grow your business, especially if you're wanting to go into retailers. And as people who work in the industry, retailers can be very demanding on when they want their products and how soon they want it. And working with a stock formula where you can't be that agile can be a challenge.
Wow. I wonder if we should take a step back. This is my fault. Should we define like library stock formulas and bespoke formulas for anyone listening who is like a little lost?
Yeah. So a library formula is essentially a base formula that a contract manufacturer or lab has already created. They've done all the testing on, and essentially, say I was like a small indie brand that I really want to launch a moisturizer, but I just don't have the money to do all the testing, and I don't have the money to do a custom formulation, but I really want to launch this brand, but you really like this base formula. It doesn't mean that it's a bad formula. Like library formulas doesn't mean that they're bad. It's just they're just not custom. And so I go and I like this formula, and I maybe add a fragrance, or maybe I want to tint it a little blue. I add that in there, and then the contract manufacturer then produces it. But you also go into it knowing that that specific base formula probably has been sold to other brands, and it's going to be continually shopped to other brands as that contract manufacturer is being approached. Whereas bespoke formulas, custom formulations are made from scratch. You get a brief from scratch, and sometimes you can get a benchmark, which is something that a brand might love, but they want to change about it. So say I love this CeraVe moisturizer, but I don't like this ingredient in it, but I don't like this texture. And so you can customize it that way. And it's fully custom from top to bottom, your own ingredient research. You can make sure that all the ingredients are sourced properly, it's vegan. You can make all those like claims that you're looking to have and try to figure out what on your no list that you really want to not have on there. So from top to bottom, I think library formulas and bespoke formulas are vastly different.
Laura, I'm curious, in what circumstance or scenario is going the library formula route the ideal option for a brand?
I really think it's for, personally, this is more of like an opinion, but for the like salon professionals, there's a ton of like salon like type of stock formulas out there that are really, really great, that are really good for like after laser treatment and things like that. And they need to buy it by the gallon. And I think those are really great options. I don't think it's a really good option for brands that are really wanting, like they want to be the next L'Oreal. They want to be like this big $1 billion business. It's going to be really hard to scale that way, because when you also have a custom formulation, you own the IP of that formula. That's like added value to your business as a whole. And so I think it only really works out well for the type, I personally think it's more of like the estheticians who have like tons of clients all the time, and it doesn't make sense for them to buy like 20 tiny jars of a cream when they can just buy it by the gallon. And they can also then potentially sell it to their customers as like an after treatment for a laser or etc.
That makes so much sense. So obviously when we're talking about like an e.l.f., a NYX, like any of these sort of products that come out like very quickly, I know that for a long time, e.l.f. Was talking about how they had a 13-week idea to basically store shelves. So, I mean, and I don't think they're like, shy about talking about how, they're not like creating these products from scratch, but these are the library formulas, right? These are the stock formulas when you see an explosion of one category on the market.
Yeah, likely, typically, I'm not going to say this is universal for every brand, but most of the time, color cosmetics are typically formulas that people own, because how the trends come in and out left and center, and how the colors can change. And technically, if you make a new shade, technically it's a new formula. So if you have like 60 shades of a foundation, do you want to buy 60 shades of a formula? Probably not. So typically color cosmetics you don't typically own, and most of the color cosmetic formulas on the market tend to be stock, or if they are custom, they're not owned by that brand, because they know that like color trends pop in and out faster than skin trends do, so it's not an added value to them.
That makes so much sense. I mean, like truly, why would you want to go through 12 to 16 months of development to create a lip oil or a product that is not even gonna maybe be popular in 2 years?
Exactly.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, so let's talk about cost here. What are we talking here? If you want to walk into a contract manufacturer and create this really amazing product using a stock library formula or bespoke, what's like the sliding scale here?
If you're going to a contract manufacturer, you have to understand that you're only buying a formula from them. You're not buying packaging. You're not even buying the unit carton. You're not buying supply chain logistics. You have to add that into your cost of good. Generally speaking, I find that mass to masstige brands typically will have a cost of good around like $2 to $3. And then I want to say like the lower end of luxury, closer to maybe $5 to $6. And then like those products that are $100, $120, those tend to be closer to around like $6 to $10 for cost of good.
That's great information. Thank you. Okay, so many contract manufacturers out there, and I feel like the media is talking about them more nowadays. I just saw a headline in another publication about how Texas has like all these contract manufacturers, and it's becoming a hub, and I feel like we're talking about it a lot more. But what should brands or retailers ask? How do they find the right manufacturer? How do they find the right chemist? What's the work look like here to find them?
With contract manufacturer, it really depends. I think it depends. Like you need to know what you're going to order and how much you're going to order. So you really need to understand what they can make, because contract manufacturers have their own specialties. There are color cosmetic contract manufacturers. There are hot pour contract manufacturers. There are liquids contract manufacturers. There are skincare contract manufacturers. There are manufacturers that do all of the above, and those tend to be like the really, really big guys. But the smaller ones that tend to be more agile, they have specific specialties where they really focus on their own things. So like as a brand, you really need to understand like what are you trying to make, and try really hard as much as you can. Do not walk into a contract manufacturer with like, oh my God, like I want to launch a color cosmetic brand, but I don't know if I want to start with a lipstick or a lip gloss or this or that. Just come in and have your ideas really defined, and just let them know what you want, and then they can kind of move forward that way. Contract manufacturers are kind of like, they kind of like pump formulas in and out. So it goes through the lab, goes to manufacturing. That's how they make money. You can also separately work with consultants like myself, where I do custom formulations, and I try to like kind of have a little bit better like customer service and really create something custom. And then after that, we go through what's called a tech transfer process. And then I then transfer the formula and the technology over to a contract manufacturer that I know, I trust, and I love, to then scale up the formulation and bring it onto the market. But it's really important for the brands to really understand, like having their concepts really defined is really important. Coming from someone who used to work at contract manufacturers, it was really hard to work with the brands that like just came in and was like, I want a moisturizer that's hydrating. I'm like, great. There's a lot of those. Can you elaborate? And they're like, no. And I'm like, cool.
I'll just figure it out for you.
Yeah.
I do. That's a great point that you made. I feel like I've talked to so many brands that don't go right to a contract manufacturer, that basically hire someone like yourself to develop it, to develop a formula, and then they shop around. Do you think that's like a strategy that a lot of people use?
I think it's becoming more popular because the contract manufacturer kind of system is essentially, they're trying to make as much product as they can because that's how they make money. But with consultants, at least with myself anyways, I try to create products that are really great, unique. I try to like do a ton of research on the ingredients, make sure it aligns with their story, and if it looks good in like the future, and if it's on trend now. And so you kind of get more of a kind of like customized experience. So like with me, now that I'm a consultant, you can come to me with like, hey, I want a moisturizer that's hydrating, but I also don't know what ingredients are trendy and cool. And I don't know what's hot and new, and what do you think? And then I can add value, and I will create like a presentation of all of like the cool ingredients that I just got presented by these really great ingredient suppliers, and present them. And we kind of collaborate together on creating a concept and a formula together. Whereas contract manufacturers, some of them are unable to do that. Some of them can. If they have like an innovation department, they typically can do something like that. But if you're going to like a smaller one, they typically won't have a specific innovation lab department that can help you curate those ideas together as a collaborative network.
That's really great insight here. I want to open this up. If anyone listening has any questions for Laura about anything we've been talking about or anything that we haven't as well, please raise your hand. We'd love to bring you onto our digital stage to ask a question. We have one here. Let's see if I can figure this out. I'll have to speak. Piper, welcome. Please introduce yourself and share your question with Laura. If you're speaking, we can't hear you.
Okay, I had to figure out how to do it. My name is Piper. I own a hair salon in Atlanta, and I've actually have a product that is formulated. I'm no longer working with that chemist that formulated the product, and I would like to make some changes. So I've been stuck trying to find out where to find a chemist that could assist me with product development. And if you have any answers for that, or if you yourself work with hair companies, I would love to get your information and reach out to you.
Yeah, I personally do work with hair companies. I've formulated a handful of hair care products. You cut out for a second. With the formula that you have now, are you just trying to reformulate it? Is it just something that you want to like scrap and start from scratch? Like what happened?
I want to reformulate. I want to add some other ingredients that I have researched. And I'm really not certain if she followed instructions on what I requested. It was a very good formulation. Like I used it for over a year. It was, selling with no problems. And then, so I would do small batches through her. And the last batch that I got from her was totally different than any of the previous batches. And I had to trash all of it.
I see. So it just looks like something happened, something changed. I'm happy to connect. If you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, I'm happy to connect with you and try to help you troubleshoot any issues that you have.
Yeah, and like I said, I definitely want to add some different ingredients. So it probably will be more of a reformulation.
Gotcha. That sounds great. I look forward to hearing from you.
Yes, I will send you a message. Thank you.
So Laura, for anyone else who has that similar problem to Piper, so basically it's like the best practice would be to take the formula that you kind of want to like reformulate and just take it somewhere else and kind of almost like start from the beginning.
Yeah, essentially, if there's a multitude of things that could have happened. Maybe one of the ingredients that the previous chemist was using got discontinued. She swapped something out but didn't do a validation batch. She could have changed her equipment. There's like a multitude of things that requires a lot of investigation to figure out what happened. There's two things. You can really do the true investigation and figure it out. But if you don't want to work with that chemist anymore, then you could just truly just start from scratch. And you can basically what's called reverse engineering a prototype, and then we can try to make it as close as possible, and then adding in anything that she additionally wanted to add in.
Awesome. All right, we have another question. Tammany, did I say that right?
You did. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, great. Thank you. Laura, I had a question. I was wondering if you're seeing, when it comes to formulations in skincare in particular, whether you're seeing any trends that you're really excited about, or maybe some trends that you're surprised about.
Yeah, so I think one of the newer trends that are coming up that came to fruition, I think around like 2020, but it's starting to like reach the consumer space now is like the inflammaging, if you're familiar with that concept, which is basically the inflammation in your body is causing you to age. And essentially there's this bunch of ingredients that can help with that. A new version of that, I guess, would be that it's very new. It's a concept that's probably come up in the last, 6 months or so within the raw ingredient space. I haven't seen it reach the consumer space yet, but it's called hypoxia aging, which comes from the lack of like oxygen in your skin causing you to age a little bit quicker. So it helps like choosing ingredients that help like basically, it might be a little sciencey, but basically increase the amount of like ATP in your skin, which is basically the energy in your body and skin to help keep it hydrated and plumped and things like that. So this like hypoxia aging is becoming more popular in terms of like, at least with what I'm seeing with ingredient suppliers. And so that's a really new concept that I'm actually really excited to do a little bit more research on and figure out how to like solve those issues.
Ooh, I want both of those things. So interesting. Awesome. Well, I have one question that was submitted earlier as well from a listener, and that is, when starting a clean beauty brand, what questions should I have ready for my chemist?
Most importantly is not necessarily questions, but you need to have your no list. What ingredients do you not want to have? Clean is an undefined term within the industry. Whether you choose to be Sephora Clean compliant, Target Clean compliant, you can have your own individual brand compliancy for clean. You have to do two major things. One, you just need to define what clean means to you as a brand. And if you want to adopt Sephora Clean, that's okay, but you really just need to define what that is and note those out and like what those ingredients are that you don't want in your products. But you can also make sure that clean also can sometimes extend to like environmental pieces as well. So understanding like, do you want ingredients that were ethically sourced? Obviously we do, but you have to really define that. Do you want to like, that also can sometimes extend to packaging, can extend to your supply chain. So really understanding the nuances of clean, I think is really most important. I personally am not subscribed to the clean beauty movement, but I will formulate for anybody who wants to subscribe to them.